a man simply that needs no introduction, other than this, his new venture, Fresh 24. Catch it on Apple Podcasts, catch it on Spotify, catch it on YouTube. Subscribe to my dear friend, Marc Zumoff. What's going on, Marc Zumoff?
Dude, you just did my job for me.
I'm just making it easy for you.
That's why I'm here to promote all of that. I've come out from under my retirement rock.
Now, I heard the first thing that happened in retirement was you just got bombarded with cameos. Everyone wanted you to wish happy birthday to to everyone in Sixer Nation. Has that settled down for you at all?
Yeah, to the point where I do like one every 2 months.
You're heavily involved in Temple. You're doing great things on campus there. We'll get into that. But tell me about this new web show podcast, Fresh 24, with you, Marc Zumoff.
It's an opportunity for me to take nearly 40 years of covering the team, all the people that I met, all the stories that I know, and present that in a way that's 21st century, modern. Of course, it seems nowadays that everybody has a podcast, but in this case, I'm hoping that, my exposure in the market, so to speak, and the fact that I did the Sixers for 27 years will help to bring some attention to that. And so this is what we've done. Fresh 24 was one of a number of sayings I had. It's not as applicable as it once was, because now when you recycle the shot clock, it's not 24. But that became synonymous with, ball goes out of bounds, Sixers get a fresh 24. And so we just felt Fresh 24, fresh, and hopefully it'll resonate. People will listen and enjoy it, because we've already done some interviews that we have in our basket, so to speak, and it's been great already, and nothing has really dropped yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, now I'm disappointed, because I thought Fresh 24 was going to be you living with like JJ Redick for 24 hours. You guys like hang out all day and night, and it's just 24 straight hours with Marc Zumoff.
We actually did get JJ Redick, although I don't think that he could live with me for 24 minutes, let alone 24 hours. I have a woman who's actually lived with me for over 40 years. I don't know how she did that, but she did. JJ Redick, by the way, I think people are going to love it, because he's just so bright. He has opinions on the Sixers. And this was actually done the day that he had that whole big thing with Kendrick Perkins and what Kendrick Perkins had to say. Mm-hmm. It was unbeknownst to me, because we did the interview right after he recorded it, never mentioned it. And then, of course, it all hit the fan later that day. But nonetheless, I think you'll find JJ fascinating and somebody who is really enjoyable to listen to.
And from what I understand, the goal of this is to do things that are a little bit more evergreen. The goal of this is for you to be able to have these conversations that are timeless, essentially.
That's right. So it's not going to be, hey, how do you think the Sixers are going to defend the pick and roll, or what are they going to do in the playoffs, or anything like that. These will be stories that are, as we say in the business, are evergreen. We'll look back. We'll maybe look into the future, that sort of thing. And just to be able to talk about the Sixers again, for me, is awesome, and do it in a public forum. So we're going to have not only current and former coaches and players, and former coaches and players, front office folks, but people who have this kind of connection with the Sixers. So it could be, the wish list has people like Kevin Hart, Rob McElhenney, and it could be a politician, could be Governor Josh Shapiro, those who do other things in life as full-time gigs, but love the Sixers and love to talk about them as well.
How do you like being a talk show host? I mean, you've done interviews before, you've hosted shows before, but how are you enjoying the talk show host format?
Well, first of all, I'm no Marc Farzetta. Let's get that out of the way right away. I am no Marc Farzetta.
Congratulations.
We're both bald and we both have beards, but other than that, the comparisons stop. We know you're the standard, and I can just only hope to be you one day. But
Marc, my God.
Listen, just being able to make a living talking about sports is a ridiculous privilege, and you never forget it, and how fortunate you are to be able to do that, whether it's calling games or doing interviews. And I love interviews because I love people, and I have natural curiosity, and I'd like to think that I'm a good listener. So if they say something that piques my interest, or I think might pique the interest of the audience, I'm right down that rabbit hole.
Mhm.
And we can veer off and talk about anything. So I had JJ Redick on it. I know we talked about politics and, his viewpoint and the debate, the nature of debate shows today. And does anybody really listen to anybody else? So the conversations can go anywhere, whether it's their occupation, their interests, politics, life, philosophy, death. It could be that, but ultimately we'll get around to, all right, let's talk about the squad that you love so much. Why do you love them? And, it's what does it mean to be a Sixers fan?
Gotcha. Fresh 24. It's going to be a weekly program dropping on Wednesday. The debut episode, April 5th, if I'm not mistaken, too. So we can look forward to that. Now, as far as this Sixers team does go, look, we all want to talk about MVP and Joel Embiid and whether or not he's going to win that. And we also want to talk about just a bare minimum of making it out of the second round of the playoffs, Marc Zumoff. We're dying for this. But first, Joel Embiid, MVP performances left and right. Don't know if he'll have the opportunity to win it, depending on load management as the season winds down. Where do you think he's at in that MVP race?
He's my MVP, but I think people look at the fact that Nikola Jokic's team is on top of their conference. I think they look at the fact that he's a ridiculously good passer and has kind of reinvented his position. He already has the traction of having won the award a couple of times. And the fact that Joel Embiid does not play close to every game. And so I think that what I said in favor of Jokic is in favor of his candidacy. And what I had to say about Joel, unfortunately, even going back to his rookie year when he was so great, but he only played limited games, legislates, unfortunately, against him. But that is the state of sports today. I think owners are interested in protecting their assets. I think players are interested in protecting themselves as a brand and an asset. And so playing all 82 games now is unusual and is rarely done. And so he's my MVP for what it's worth. I bleed red, white, and blue, but I just think that the kind of year that he's had and the way he has scored, and listen, he's had many a clutch play for this team already, whether it's offensively or a big block defensively. And so, and that's the thing that he has over Jokic, is that I'm sitting here and thinking about it, is that he's just a remarkable defensive player. And I hope he finally wins the award. But more importantly, to your other point, let's get past the second round. And that's not going to be easy because right now they're tracking the Boston Celtics. And, it doesn't seem like they're going to have home court at this point. So they're going to have to win one in Boston. But listen, they're a pretty good road team this year. They've had some big road wins, and let's hope that they can do that in a series against the Celtics.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm going to brace you for it. I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite child, essentially. In the post-process Sixers, meaning post-Sam Hinkie and all that stuff, the Jimmy Butler-led Sixers, to use that term use that word led, versus the James Harden, Joel Embiid Sixers. Who do you think's the better team of those two teams? The Jimmy Butler Sixers, we'll call it that, and the Harden Embiid Sixers. Who do you think's the better squad?
I could cop out. As I'm sitting here thinking about it, Tyrese Maxey was not on that team, and now he is. So that makes it different. And quite frankly, you could say that he's replacing Jimmy Butler, and they're two different players, but two guys who can make their own shots and even help to win a game for you in crunch time. So, and then what the obvious thing that you don't have is Ben Simmons, who now is a shell of himself, and apparently his season has been shut down. But back then, we were still screaming for him to take a jump shot every once in a while or hit a free throw. But he was still a guy who could guard anyone. He could give you 15 points, and he was a remarkable passer. I think the reason why that team doesn't exist anymore, and in some measure, and there are other reasons for it, is that there was an essential choice between Simmons and Jimmy Butler. And I guess Sixer management figured then, you know what, Simmons is younger. We invested in him as a draft pick. We're going to have to pay Butler. And, he's, on or around 30 years old. So that's the reason why Butler is no longer a Sixer. But I realize I'm not answering your question.
You're choosing your favorite kid. I know.
So I'm going to go with this team just for the good karma and the good vibes.
I love it. All right. Now, I saw the podcast being announced, and people can follow on YouTube for the Fresh 24 and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. I know my man's busy with the podcast and YouTube show. I know my man's busy at Temple University. Did he learn the instrument yet? Did you learn your instrument?
I started to. So I played flute back in the day, and I actually started to take lessons, and I discovered that I still have the wherewithal, the desire, the energy to continue to do what it is that I do, not necessarily calling games per se, but doing something like this. And so it's been in the works for many, many, many months, and it's finally come to fruition. I got the energy and the enthusiasm to do it, and hopefully that'll be reflected in the final product, and the flute's going to have to wait. That tune's going to be played later.
I can't wait for you doing like a happy birthday on Cameo or just something like that. Like that.
That I think I could do for you. If you want it, Mark, you let me know. I'll do it for you for free.
I'm flattered. And then finally, just with Temple, our alma mater there, Adam Fisher's our new head coach, basketball. Looking forward to his tenure here. What do you know about the new Temple men's basketball head coach?
That's a really good question, because the only thing that I know is because he's Jewish, he was in the Maccabi games. And so my friend Brian Schiff coached him back in the day. He played in Israel. I don't know how old he was, probably in his teen years. And just from what I read about him, it seems as though he recruited a couple of guards from this area to go to the University of Miami. And so what you hope is that he can keep some of these kids home who go elsewhere, and or attract somebody through the portal and bring those guys home and inject some good feeling into this team. I have a lot of respect for Aaron McKee. I think he did a good job with what he had. That's not to say anything disparaging about the players, but circumstances were that he just didn't succeed like I'm sure he wanted to and a lot of other people wanted to. I'm so glad that Aaron is still with the school and still with the program. And hopefully Adam can do some things with the help of Aaron and others to turn it around and really create some excitement on North Broad.
Fresh 24 drops a fresh premiere show coming up on April 5th. That's a Wednesday. Check that out on YouTube. Check that out wherever you get your podcasts as well, Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Marc Zumoff,
Yep.
I love you. Thanks so much, brother. Congrats on the new show.
Back at you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Marc Zumoff joining us.